You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
And we are back for the 7th and final round of this Swiss here in the Eye of Winter Classic 2. I am SirRhino. I'm in the booth. I was scheduled to be in the booth all day, but I was feeling a little under the weather earlier today. Filled myself up with some good top shelf medication, and now I'm feeling great. So I am here taking Mark, aka Chibi Kawaii's spot in the booth. And he did a great job filling in all day. So, of course, hats off to Mark. But I'm going to be here to finish the job. And joining me in the booth, he was here for the last round and is now warmed up and raring to go. LocoPojo, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty excited about this next matchup. We have a mono fire mid-range deck that has made it into the top 8. So I'm pretty excited to see what's going on with that. GoblinGravy is pulling out a lot of interesting stops. He's actually got some Bladekin Apprentices in here to fill up the 2-drop slot a little bit, and he's running some other interesting cards like Flashfire. I'm pretty psyched for this deck.
Yeah, we're used to seeing fire-based aggro decks splash either Primal or Shadow for a little bit better threat quality or removal. But yeah, GoblinGravy passing that up and just going for pure consistency and getting some nice payoff with that. Soulfire Drakes, if you have 5 power, it's going to be castable. Flashfire, Crazy Reach. Groundbreaker, also triple fire influence requirement. If you've got 4 power, you're going to be able to cast these cards on time, on curve. So, there's something to be said about that, and it's working out so far for GoblinGravy. Both of these players, GoblinGravy and Matt117, are 5-1. So this is a win and in. If they win this match, they are locked for top 8. The loser has a shot, depends on the tiebreakers, could still sneak in, but they want to get the win here. On the other end, though, we've got Matt117 on Praxis midrange. And this is a pretty slow build. He's got 4 Torch and 3 Purify for the early game, but outside of that, nothing until turn 3. And then we've got some Amber Accolades, Dawnwalker's, Champion of Impulses. Not exactly the best kind of blockers you want against things like Bladekin Apprentice.
Yeah, 2 Pyro Knights and GoblinGravy's early hand. He's got access to the Caelid's Favor to get himself up towards Crimson Firemaw. He needs 1 more power to get that Firemaw out, but the early game's looking pretty good for him, and that's something that you definitely want to see in the first part of the red deck.
Yeah, on the other side, we see Matt's got Obelisk as his first line of defense right now. Not exactly where you want to be, although that Torch off the top is going to help a little bit. We see, at least we can see on the hand cam, that Shatterglass Mage is going to be the next draw from Matt. So he is going to be getting beaten down and behind on board.
It's not looking great. Shatterglass Mage is certainly not a power, which means that Matt is going to be stuck at 2 for the foreseeable future. He's got 1 more chance, 1 in 3 to draw power 3. So this is a pretty bad hand for him, and I'm not sure that he's going to get a lot of action out of it. GoblinGravy, in the meantime, picking up his 4th power. He's definitely going to get that Crimson Firemaw out, and that's going to be enough to start pushing.
Yeah, Matt taking a real big risk here with this build of Praxis, not even going the full 4 Purifies, having no Temple Scribes, no Power Stones early, and we're seeing him get punished real hard for it. Obviously, unfortunate that he's even stuck on 2, but that's also just part of the deck building process. So going a little bit bigger, a bit greedier with Praxis has been paying off so far in this tournament, but getting hit pretty hard with reality in this matchup.
Yeah, that definitely did not go well. He was dead next turn to what was on board, and even if he had managed to kill the Pyro Knight, he would not have been able to deal with the double 5/4s along with a Torch. So Matt goes down in the first round, and we're going to be going straight to sideboards. And yeah, we'll see if he can pull it back out, but I'm not loving his chances.
Yeah, if we take a look at sideboard, it's really up to Matt to try and shore up this matchup. So we've got to assume he's going to try and lower the curve, get a little more interaction. So looking at that, the standout cards here are Champion of Impulse, a couple Devoted Thurge, Praxis Displacer. At least it can help you get on board and set them back a little bit. Not the best against all these cards with charge, but I think it's still going to be better than something like Xenon Obelisk in this matchup.
Against Torch or Obliterate either, it might be a pretty solid choice. I do really love these Champion of Impulses to sort of help him get into that late game. I think that they're definitely in. And do you think he should run the slows right now?
It's interesting because sometimes you don't think that's something you want against aggro, but if you look at this mono fire deck, it's got a lot of 4 and 5 drops. Main deck, we've got 4 obliterate, 4 soulfire drake, 2 flash fire. Turning any of those into 10 drops is effectively removing them from the game. And again, Matt doesn't have a lot to do on the early turn, so something like slow that can be something you do early and cut off late game reach could go a long way.
We are seeing at least the 3 purifies in main board, so he's got some early game if he can really pick it up. I think not picking up Amber Acolytes that last game was pretty bad for him, although Amber Acolytes are generally there to gum up the ground, and he's currently dealing with Crimson Firemaw, which is a card that he's going to have a lot of problems with. I think his only major answers to it are Sandstorm Titan and Crimson Firemaw of his own, which is not great if you're a little bit worried about removal situations.
Yeah, it's sometimes with sideboarding, it's not always about bringing in cards you're super happy to play in the matchup, but more just upgrading cards that are really bad into cards that are at least okay or acceptable. And I think that's what Matt's going to try and do here, because something like Xenon Obelisk is just a 4-cost do nothing, right? Your units are already kind of bigger than theirs. You just need to get on the board, get your blockers set up, and that's kind of the idea here, I think, with hopefully where Matt's going with his sideboard as we get into game 2.
I'm hoping that those Champion of Impulses come in. I think that Matt's best route to victory is probably getting the Champion of Impulse triggers and pulling some of his big units like Heart of the Vault and Harnessor out early to sort of stop the mid-range stuff like Crimson Firemaw.
Yeah, if Matt can get to a spot where he's actually casting Heart of the Vault, he'll be pretty happy with that, as that 2 damage will be able to pick off almost anything in GoblinGravy's deck other than really the Firemaws and Groundbreakers. Everything else, even Soulfire Drake, has 2 health unless they've gotten Warcry. So, that is kind of the motif with Praxis is let Heart of the Vault carry the deck. That's why you're playing Praxis, and it's a good game plan to have.
See 3 power here at an Amber Acolyte. He's going to be able to cast Heart of the Vault off of this particular hand, but the early game is a little bit lacking. I think that he pretty much has to keep this. It's just got a game plan that gets him up to Heart of the Vault, but if GoblinGravy's got a fast enough early game hand, this is not great for him.
Yeah, this is a hand that can catch up from getting behind, and it's likely to get behind. So I agree that while it's not the ideal hand to keep, at least you're on the play, so you could kind of afford a slow hand, but he's going to go with the slightly greedier line, and I don't know if he gets rewarded for it. Double Xenon Initiation. Xenon Initiation was already like probably the worst card in his last hand. Now to double up on that with no threats, not exactly where you want to be.
At least has access to Purify, which does kill 1 unit, but compared to an Amber Acolyte, I'm not sure if that's particularly helpful. GoblinGravy, in the meantime, looking at Pyro Knight, another Caleb's Favor. He's got Soulfire Drake as a 5, and he's going to hit 5, so he's on the path to actually getting some mid-range threats out. Matt needs to really draw some answers.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little surprised that some of these Xenon Initiations even stayed in this matchup. Like, your units are already bigger than theirs. You don't need to make them bigger and kill them. You just need to have the right density of threats that do things. And
it's possible he was worried about Crimson Firemaws in particular. That's a hard card to deal with in this deck. So, certain answer.
But, yeah, and especially once you factor in the +1/+1, like getting Sandstorm Titan 2/6/7 is huge against this deck. But here we see the dragons are many and fearsome, and down comes the Soulfire Drake, but at least Matt has a torch to take out the 5 damage from that turn.
So satisfying when your Soulfire Drake gets torched, though, because then you know that your deck's just going to get fun for the next couple of draws.
Yeah.
Could get some flying stuff, could get some charge stuff. All the charge stuff has flying in the case of Sansari Brigand, and all the flying stuff has charge in the case of Crimson Firemaw. So we see Brigand coming down with a pummel on top. That's a good 9 damage right there. And another Soulfire Drake. This is looking very bad for Matt.
Yeah, Matt goes down to 4. 0-cost flying charge Sansari Brigand. That's 4 extra damage to go with that Soulfire Drake. Matt's got a Xenon Initiation to kill one of these flyers, but I mean, GoblinGravy's got the Obliterate in hand. This game is looking over real quick. 0-cost pummel just to make sure this is super over.
No, just perfect lethal.
Putting him out of his misery quick and clean. And yeah, I said I didn't think Matt's deck would be able to withstand the fiery fury of this mono fire deck, and that kind of came to pass. Just the big greedy version of Praxis serving Matt well up until this round. Now he's still X and 2, could make top 8 depending on breaks, but congrats to GoblinGravy and Matt. This is, I think, both of their first ETS events, both doing very well. GoblinGravy locking up top 8 with that win.
Solid monocolor deck, and I think it's definitely looking fairly interesting. We have seen GoblinGravy play before, but apparently not terribly frequently. So it's good to see a new face in the top 8.
Yeah, that's my bad. I think with a name like GoblinGravy, I would remember it more, as that's one that'll stick out. But he's making a name for himself here, no doubt about that. So we're working on getting a backup match. I think we may have caught some of the production team off guard with how fast that 2-0 was. So they're looking
That's
for
the mono red way.
Yeah. I mean, that thing went to script for GoblinGravy. Just absolute brutal curve out. Just so many efficient beaters. Just a pile of unanswered Crimson Fireballs and Soulfire Drakes. 25 health's a lot, but not when they're getting taken out in 10 damage chunks.
Oh, I love that deck can go for 4 Soulfire Drakes and still feel pretty happy about it. Like, it is very rare that you can do that in a dual color deck, but in mono red, it works out just perfectly. He got exactly the consistency that he was looking for, and the combination of charge and flying units already made Soulfire Drakes and Tombs very powerful. It's not a card that you're too worried about overstacking. Just getting the Entomb is so important for the rest of the deck that it's really quite special to see it just basically every game.
Yeah, we saw it there, and the other sweet one is Groundbreaker. We didn't see it in action at all in that matchup, but I imagine it's helped GoblinGravy win quite a number of games as well. Especially that, don't underrate shutting off the life gain aspect either. I'm sure that has come up in spots, but there's sometimes where you give it flying and charge off of Soulfire Drake and you can't get the double damage before you play it, but you're okay because you have a 3/6 flying charge.
Always torch for it. I have an image in my head of just like a very sad Groundbreaker floating in the air with no ground to break.
Yeah, he's not used to it, but he'll make do.
So really interesting deck overall from GoblinGravy. I'm pretty happy to see whether or not that deals well with the top 8. The double flash fire for Obliterate. I love a deck with some reach in it, and it looks like this is a deck that can really do that kind of thing. This could be a very, very solid archetype, especially in the upcoming set, when there's going to be even more red cards available, and even some sort of potential. We haven't actually seen the last Titan or the last cycle Titan that can attack and get some sort of increase, but if we see it in red, could be something that definitely opts into this deck.
Yeah, and there's a chance it has charge, right? That whole cycle so far has one battle skill, and Overwhelm's already been used up. Maybe it would end up with Quick Draw. That one hasn't been used yet, so they might be wary of giving Fire too many big 5-cost chargers, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's the only part of that cycle that hasn't been revealed yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing what other mono fire goodies we get, or really for all of the mono faction and 2-faction decks, because Omens of the Past kind of got away from that. There was a very high density of multi-faction cards. Indeed, just because it wanted to catch up with set 1, the whole cycle of Xenon and things like that. But it looks like set 3 is bringing at least some focus back to mono faction.
Well, certainly, since you have to get into those opposing color factions, then you definitely need to have kind of a weird focus break there. But at this point, we're just sort of reinforcing all of the different archetypes, which is pretty exciting because we're going to see basically a lot more like Omens support as well. I think there's going to be a pretty diverse and crazy meta as a result of this. So should be lots of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the meta right now is pretty diverse as is, and we're just going to be adding more archetypes to the mix with tribal things going on. So really looking forward to that. I love the look of the upcoming Dusk Road set from what I've seen. And it looks like we're diving into a backup match. We've got HiThar versus Serb here.
HiThar's playing on a bruised Combray list, a good old dark Combray with the dark returns to make all of those big things come back over and over again. Serb currently committing to an attack, and HiThar having to consider it pretty hard. He's got a 5/6. He has no tricks here, so if he makes a block with the Sandstorm Titan, it could end up hurting him against Serb's deck, but we will see exactly what ends up happening there. We don't have deck images for this yet. Oh, we're just getting them in, so I'm going to check and see real quick if Serb has access to Stand Together. He does not, and it doesn't look like he has any other major tricks. So a block with the Sandstorm Titan would be relatively safe, but could end up taking down to a Torch or some other minor trick like Heart of the Vault. Heart of the Vault is a minor trick.
All right, and I'm getting word that Serb is up 1-0, so this is game 2. We have sideboarded already, and yeah, I guess there's just a holdup on this attack because we're hopping in, so they'll probably get the go-ahead shortly here. But yeah, Serb swinging with this board. HiThar's at 19 and has a Sandstorm Titan to block with, but Serb, yeah, 6 open power, is also playing Stand Together, and it looks like a chump comes out from the scribe and a Sandstorm Titan will eat that Desert Marshal, and we'll see what Serb's follow-up is here. We have no hand cam on Serb for this, so we're in the dark just as much as HiThar is.
Yeah, so Sandstorm Titan plus the Stand Together looks very, very strong. If HiThar can stick the Mystic Ascendant, that's pretty solid. And seeing this Harsh Rule here, that feels almost a little premature for Serb, because now HiThar can just follow up with another really good card and also draw some more threats for himself. So he's looking in decent shape.
That Harsh Rule may seem odd, but we haven't seen the game up to that point. It may have been that Serb actually sniffed out that HiThar had a Stand Together in hand and wanted to find a clean way to use that Harsh Rule. He even had like his own Silence Titan, whereas HiThar's was unsilenced. Maybe Serb follows up with a Great Parliament that he's trying to end the game with. But instead, his follow-up was just find the way. Now HiThar's got a Mystic Ascendant play, has Stand Together up, can even play Obelisk here, but might dig with Scribe first.
Yeah, if he digs with Scribe, then he can't play Obelisk and Stand Together in the same turn, which means he's a bit more vulnerable to things like Harsh Rule. But I think just sticking it out with 8 and Stand Togethering at end of turn is certainly fine for him.
Yeah, no need to turn Mystic Ascendant into a 10-10 here. Serb is still down to 6. It's still a 2-turn clock. So holding up Stand Together is just fine here. It was worth digging with Scribe to see whether information you could pick up just happened to whiff on power. But still, has Stand Together open. It's on Serb to find some really good answers here. But considering he just cast Find the Way the turn before, I'm not expecting some great turnaround here.
And contains at least 2 power, and it doesn't have a Harsh Rule, or if it does, he was waiting on it. And I think that overall, like, the only good answer for him here is just double Vanquish, and he's probably not going to get much out of that.
Well, Heart of the Vault can certainly go a long way, especially warped off the top. So that's at least a chump blocker here. And if it digs for the right thing, there is the possibility of double Vanquish. But that is not the case. And now HiThar has the option to play another Mystic Ascendant out and get a double draw, dig for more Stand Togethers or something like that.
He can also play Obelisk and push 2 damage, yeah, or push 4 damage, rather.
Right.
I think the Mystic Ascendant makes the most sense here, since the difference between 2 and 4 is pretty minimal in a Combray deck. But yeah, just pushing in, getting 2 damage, and keeping his Mystic Ascendants rocking.
Yeah, and now he found another Mystic Ascendant. So even if Serb somehow finds Harsh Rule and Vanquish to clear this board, he's got to deal with another Mystic Ascendant coming down. That is a very tall order, and we'll see if Serb can somehow meet it. All right, Heart of the Vault off the other Heart of the Vault. Helps him dig a little bit more.
I don't think he has access to the Harsh Rule yet, but he's choosing to pop the Aegis in prediction of it. And with a Great Parliament, he can hold out for another turn, potentially get enough to cast Harsh Rule on the next turn. HiThar has to decide if he wants to play a 3rd Mystic Ascendant into a potential Harsh Rule. Decides against it. Getting access to Slay gives him lethal with the Obelisk. Yeah. Temple Scribe lethal.
Assuming Serb doesn't have any kind of Stand Together of his own or Protect, it doesn't look like it. So, yep, Slay Obelisk comes down, the unblocked Temple Scribe will be Exaxes.
That is the game. Was that 2-0 for HiThar? Or 2-1?
Nope, that is a tied up match. So we're going to maybe have a short session of sideboarding. We'll see. Those Xenon Obelisks were out of the sideboard from HiThar. He wanted to just be the bigger time deck. So didn't do a lot of work that game, but helped apply the killing blow at least.
Yeah, they certainly helped him out quite a bit. HiThar not looking at a lot of other stuff that you would expect. Like those stand togethers are certainly quite good against the big Praxis deck, and he may be running in more of those. But
yeah, after seeing
any sideboarding,
right after seeing and confirming that Serb kept in Harsh Rule, right? We saw Serb cast a Harsh Rule earlier in that game. Maybe if HiThar didn't go the max number of stand togethers, he could bring those in. It's always a fun tension of when two decks that are both playing Harsh Rule and units go up against each other, who ultimately ends up keeping them in. Do both decks do it, or does one try and assume the role of beatdown? And I'm interested to see if HiThar just went full in and decided to cut the Harsh Rules and try and be the beatdown deck.
Serb's deck had access to 4 Icaria the Liberator. I'm not sure if he sided them out. There are Reality Wardens in his deck, so you'd have to assume that something came out, and it wasn't Heart of the Vault, Shatterglass Mage, or possibly Mystic Ascendant. It's hard to say exactly what happened.
It's certainly possible that Shatterglass Mage came out, but now that Serb saw Xenon Obelisk, he might bring them back in. Just because normally against a deck filled with Titans and Mystic Ascendants, a 5/3 warp isn't always what you want to be doing. But we'll see as this third game of this match is underway.
We have access to 3 power for HiThar, a Comrie Banner, Diplomatic Seal, and a Seek power, which is enough influence to get him pretty much anywhere he wants to go, although he needs a 4th for the Sandstorm Titan and the Parliament. So he needs to get a little bit more, but he's got some consistent 3 and 4 drops to start the game with.
All right, so yep, we're just developing power here. Looks like HiThar, starts on the banner, gets the Shadow Source, seeks for double justice, and he's got a very nice clean opener here. We'll see if Serb's got one as well.
He's just solved for all of the influence in his deck, with the exception of... No, actually, that is all the influence in his deck. I was going to say double justice for Reality Warden, but that's the same as double justice for Harsh Rule, so he's got it. Sandstorm Titan looking pretty solid, and yeah, looks like he is good to go. He gets to just play a threat after a threat after a threat. Eventually, he'll pull into some big 6 drops. I think he's got a consistent enough hand to be fairly well favored in this game.
Yeah, I also think it's very safe to assume that HiThar did take out the Harsh Rules, because we see Combre Healers in his hand. Those are out of the sideboard. So you're bringing in Combre Healer in kind of this, what you would think is a big mid-range versus big mid-range matchup. And I think that's a pretty strong tell that HiThar is trying to be the aggressor, even if you don't think Combre Healer is the most aggressive unit out there.
Or at least you can use it to melt Aegises off of Icaria in a pinch. But for the most part, that extra health can be meaningful if you're trying to protect a unit from, say, a Heart of the Vault or an Obliterate or something along those lines.
Yeah, and then once you augment it with a Xenon Obelisk or a stand together, then you're talking a real threat. I've seen my fair share of 4/7 or 5/8 Combre Healers get the job done.
All right, we have our first Sandstorm Titan on the Serb side. HiThar hasn't drawn any bigger threats. He's mostly looking at Combre Healers. He's got a great Parliament that he might not even want to play since he's so close to 8 power. And yeah, that means that he's going to have a little bit of difficulty dealing with this Sandstorm Titan early. He can Combre Healer the Seraph and essentially just get a good blocker that will die to Heart of the Vault, but not much else.
Yep. So there we go. The plan is the 3/7 Seraph. So the Titan could come in. That would either mean he's bluffing or has Heart of the Vault or Torch, like you said, that to finish off the Seraph. But yep, Serb hits the gas with Sandstorm Titan. HiThar could chump, but he's at 29.
Yeah, I like this triple block here. Either a Torch comes in and nothing much happens, or he just deals all the damage to Seraph and throws a Torch himself, which either way, he gets rid of the Sandstorm Titan. He gets into his later game threats.
Yep. So Cerbus effectively trading Sandstorm Titan for a 3/7 Seraph there. I think you're pretty happy with that, as Seraph has some pretty crazy inevitability, whereas Titan's just a beater, and now the board's slightly more clear for your 6/6s like Heart of the Vault to start beating down.
Yeah, the first Heart of the Vault is a good one for Serb. He's now looking solid in the late game. HiThar had all of the consistent early game threats, but he hasn't drawn a 6 or higher drop yet, and Seraph was his only late game.
Yeah, pretty wild that Serb just got to play Heart of the Vault on 6 without using anything like a Find the Way or a Seek Power or an Amber Acolyte. Just 3-faction deck, hit triple fire, triple time, no problems on turn 6. So when the deck's doing stuff like that, it's going to feel very, very strong.
It's true. Like, certainly having access to Find the Way gives you a better chance of that, but just getting it nice and smooth without even drawing the Find the Way is one way to do it as well. We see a Great Parliament here. Of course, he wants to get all of that value. Valkyrie Enforcer doesn't really do a lot here. Serb is, after all, not running Bruised Praxis, so there's not really any reason to silence the Heart of the Vault.
Yeah, he's going to save that Valkyrie Enforcer to silence either opposing Parliament Owls or another Sandstorm Titan or a Mystic Ascendant, things like that. Don't want to use up this silence on just a vanilla 6/6. Serb rose to the challenge last turn and did nothing else and got an Amber Acolyte with it. I think that's telling us he's got a handful of Icarias or something like that, although the seat was the draw for that turn. And all right, Sandstorm Titan comes down, and Stand Together here for HiThar means Valkyrie Enforcer, Silence, Titan, Standing Together might be a line that we're seeing. Maybe the Combre Healer comes down too for an even 9 power usage.
Yeah, he's looking really good. This Stand Together means that he can effectively block Icaria, although he is just attacking in for damage, which, yeah, that route is actually quite solid. Serb can play Icaria here, and then he's just dead.
Yep. Could have preemptively used Stand Together there to get in a little more damage, instead trying to hide information, because if Serb now just casts Harsh Rule, this game is over. So instead, putting that difficult decision on Serb, where instead if he had used Stand Together, gotten a little more damage, he instead values hidden information over extra damage in this spot.
Only out in Serb's deck right now is Sandstorm Titan. A Torch would get rid of some. No, that's not going to do it. Any type of removal doesn't work. A Great Parliament gives him a decent blocker and saves him for one more turn, but with the amount of damage that he's pushing, Serb is going to have to basically take extremely unfavorable blocks here. And so he's back in the same situation next turn, so he still just needs a Sandstorm Titan. And with this double Stand Together, that's probably going to be game. I think HiThar's got this.
Yeah, Combre Healer is going to buff up the Valkyrie Enforcer, and then the birds will come in. HiThar's still sitting at 26-2. Like, Serb doesn't even have much counter pressure going on, and yeah, with double Stand Together in hand, this is a real tough spot for Serb. He might be able to live through this turn depending on how he blocks, but even then his Air Force will be gone, and it's on, like you said, draw another Sandstorm Titan, and he's already down 2 and a Rise to the Challenge, so that's a tall order.
Yep. And we see this much push, like even with a Sandstorm Titan, he's going to need at least one more threat to block with. And with Stand Together making his stuff bigger than the Sandstorm Titans, I think Serb's out of options. There's not many cards that he could have in his hand that make this situation better, and Icaria is certainly not one of them.
Yeah, and this is just the beauty of a really smart player making smart sideboard plans with just really tight decision making, right? These Combre Healers may not intuitively be what you want to bring in when you see a deck filled with Sandstorm Titans, Great Parliaments, Heart of the Vaults, Mystic Ascendants. You think you want to bring in Combre Healer against aggro, but HiThar recognizes, I'm the slightly more consistent deck. I want to be the beatdown. I'm going to take out my Harsh Rules and try and be the beatdown. Bring in Xenonopolis, bring in Stand Together, bring in Combre Healer, bring in Valkyrie Enforcer. Just kind of completely changed my deck's game plan, and it worked out magnificently there.
A very, very solid aggression. I'm not sure if the Kumra healers had all that much of an impact, but certainly lowering the curve was important there, and getting access to that Parliament Owl combined with the Valkyrie Enforcer gave him enough flyers to really push across. Mainly, though, those stand-togethers were backbreaking. They were an extremely good sideboard card that happened to match up against any sort of time justice mirror very well. And without those cards in FTJ Control's sideboard, there wasn't really any way for Serb to counter it.
Yep. So HiThar, well done there. I'm not sure the exact standings for or the implications from that match. I'm checking the standings now. I don't have all my info up to date. Looks like that brings HiThar to 5-2. So depending on breakers, could make top 8. We haven't done all the fancy calculations on that yet. Although if he was 4-2 going into that match, probably a long shot. But I've seen crazier things happen before. So he's got one match still pending, although I don't think we're going to dive into it as a backup match or anything like that. We've had our fair share of good action in this round. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll have top 8 coverage. We'll see all the players that made it into the top 8 that are live for awesome prizes here in the Eye of Winter Classic 2.
Our guaranteed top 8 for the moment. We actually do have 4 that are sure to get in. Visarius at 7-0 with his Felm Control. GoblinGravy with that fantastic modifier mid-range. Pateau at 6-1 with a Praxis mid-range deck. And Tomathor with 6-1 with a Praxis mid-range deck. So 2 Praxis, a modifier, a Felm Control, and then 4 unknowns. We'll see who those guys are in just a little bit. See you guys soon, folks.